The Vatican is one of the most famous places on earth. Millions of visitors come to see St. Peter's Basilica, the Sistine Chapel, and some of the greatest works of art ever created. But tourists only see a small part of what exists behind these walls. Beyond the public museums are private offices, restricted corridors, guarded rooms, underground spaces, and one of the most important historical archives in the world. For centuries, the Vatican has collected letters, diplomatic records, manuscripts, maps, and documents connected to popes, kings, wars, political conflicts, and major events that changed history. The most famous collection is the Vatican Apostolic Archive. For hundreds of years it was commonly known as the Vatican Secret Archive. But the word secret originally referred more to something private or personal to the Pope, not necessarily a collection of mysterious forbidden documents. Still, access is highly controlled. Ordinary tourists cannot simply walk inside. Qualified researchers can apply for permission to study certain documents, but only specific materials are available, and strict rules govern how they are handled. The archive stretches across enormous storage areas containing kilometers of shelving. Among its collections are centuries-old papal correspondence, diplomatic reports, legal documents, and records involving some of the most powerful figures in European history. And the archives are only one restricted part of Vatican City. The Vatican is also a functioning state. Behind the famous tourist areas are government offices, private residences, security centers, gardens, libraries, chapels, and sections used by the Pope and senior officials. Some doors may look completely ordinary, but behind them can be rooms that almost no visitor will ever enter. There are also underground areas beneath and around St. Peter's Basilica. Deep below the church are ancient burial sites and archaeological remains connected to the earliest centuries of Christianity. Some sections can be visited under special arrangements. Others remain closely protected because of their historical and religious importance. This is what makes the Vatican so fascinating. The mystery is not that there is one giant secret chamber hiding a single shocking truth. It is that thousands of years of religion, politics, art, diplomacy, and history are concentrated inside an area smaller than many cities' neighborhoods. And much of it exists behind doors the public never sees. So what exactly is stored inside those restricted archives? And why have some documents remained inaccessible for centuries? That is where we go next. The Vatican Apostolic Archive contains one of the most extraordinary collections of historical records in the world. Inside are documents created over centuries of papal rule, diplomacy, war, political conflict, and religious debate. Some records are famous because of the people connected to them. There are letters from European monarchs, reports sent by ambassadors, legal documents from major trials, and correspondence involving some of the most powerful rulers in history. One well-known example is the material connected to Henry VIII of England, who sought an annulment from Catherine of Aragon. There are also records related to Galileo Galilei, whose conflict with the Catholic Church became one of the most famous moments in the history of science and religion. But the archive is far larger than a collection of famous names. It contains millions of documents. Many are administrative, others are diplomatic. Some reveal how the Vatican communicated with governments during wars, revolutions, and major political crises. This is one reason the archive attracts so much attention. People often imagine that somewhere inside, there must be documents capable of rewriting history. The truth is more complicated. Much of the material has been studied by scholars, and access has gradually expanded over time. But not everything is immediately available. Records are opened according to historical periods, conservation limits, and archive rules. That means some documents can remain unavailable for decades before researchers are allowed to examine them. This delay naturally creates mystery. When people know that a powerful institution has enormous collections hidden behind secure doors, they begin to wonder what has not yet been seen. But the Vatican's restricted spaces are not limited to paper and manuscripts. Beneath its churches, inside its palaces, and behind its guarded doors are physical traces of almost 2,000 years of history. And some of the most fascinating discoveries are not stored on shelves. They are buried underground. Below the grandeur of St. Peter's Basilica lies another world. Under the marble floors, beneath the altars and massive columns, are ancient burial chambers, archaeological remains, and passages connected to the earliest history of Christianity in Rome. One of the most important areas is the Vatican Necropolis. This underground burial ground dates back to Roman times and was discovered during excavations beneath St. Peter's Basilica in the 20th century. It contains tombs, mausoleums, inscriptions, and remains from a period when Christianity was still developing inside the Roman Empire. At the center of the mystery is a question that has fascinated historians for generations. Could the tomb of St. Peter actually be here? According to Catholic tradition, St. Peter was buried near this location after his death in Rome. During archaeological investigations, researchers uncovered structures and remains that the Vatican later associated with Peter's burial site. But the underground areas are extremely sensitive. Access is limited, visitor numbers are controlled, and many parts cannot be freely explored. There are practical reasons for this. The spaces are ancient, fragile, and located directly beneath one of the most important churches in the world. But restrictions also add to the sense of mystery. Above ground, millions of people walk through St. Peter's Square every year. Below them lies an older Rome filled with tombs and passages that most visitors will never see. And there is another hidden side to the Vatican. Not underground this time. Behind the walls of the Apostolic Palace are private rooms, chapels, corridors, and secure areas used by popes and Vatican officials. Some have witnessed decisions that affected nations, kings, wars, and the direction of the Catholic Church itself. So while the archives preserve the Vatican's written history, its hidden rooms preserve something else: the places where that history was actually made. The Vatican has inspired centuries of rumors. Secret tunnels, forbidden books, hidden treasures, documents that could supposedly change history. But the truth is more interesting than most conspiracy theories. What the Vatican really protects is not one single shocking secret. It protects an enormous concentration of history. Inside its walls are centuries of diplomatic correspondence, religious records, priceless artworks, ancient manuscripts, archaeological sites, private offices, and spaces connected to some of the most powerful people in European history. Many restricted areas are closed for practical reasons. Some contain fragile documents. Others are active government or religious spaces. Some archaeological locations are too delicate for large numbers of visitors. And certain records remain closed until the Vatican officially opens that historical period to researchers. That does not mean every mystery has been solved. There are still enormous collections waiting to be studied. Newly opened documents can change historians' understanding of major events. Archaeological research beneath the Vatican continues to reveal details about ancient Rome and early Christianity. And behind many ordinary-looking doors are rooms that have witnessed centuries of decisions the public may never fully understand. Perhaps that is why the Vatican remains so fascinating. It is one of the smallest countries on Earth, yet it contains an extraordinary amount of human history. Above ground, tourists see magnificent churches, museums, and artwork. Below ground are ancient tombs and archaeological remains. Behind restricted doors are archives and private spaces most visitors will never enter. So what is actually hidden inside the Vatican? Not a single secret capable of changing the world overnight. Something much bigger. Nearly 2,000 years of religion, politics, power, art, and history, preserved behind the walls of the world's most famous tiny state.